So Paris is really just the beginning. It only puts in place some goals for the countries and some rules in terms of emissions reporting, as well as updating and pledges. All the hard work is yet to come. And realizing that kind of future poses two significant challenges for society. The first being a technological challenge, and how do we evolve in a way that is consistent with that emissions goal and that climate goal. And the second is a policy challenge. That is, how do we put in place the kind of policies that will allow us to go down that path. Prior to the Paris meetings, the COP21 meeting, we began exploring the road from Paris. So this is looking forward and thinking about what happens after Paris. And so we were exploring really three questions. One is, what do the country pledges potentially mean for global emissions and future climate? Two is the nature of the technological challenge associated with realizing the kinds of climate goals that were being set in the Paris Agreement. And three is thinking about policy implementation opportunities, and how might, in particular, how might countries potentially work together to achieve their goals. Regarding this first question of what the country pledges might mean for emissions and ultimately for climate, we're finding a couple things. One is that the country pledges themselves, the way they're currently characterized, will help slow the growth in global emissions, but they won't be sufficient for essentially reversing that trend. The other is simply the follow-on from that is that so additional effort is going to be required beyond the pledges that have already been put forward. And that effort is going to be required globally, so in developed countries as well as developing countries. The second issue that we were talking about was the nature of the technological challenge. We're talking about a fundamentally different energy system. We're talking about today an energy system that's primarily dependent on fossil fuels, but one in the future that in the developed world is essential, has no freely emitting generation in the power system, and one that moves towards nuclear, renewables, and CCS. And certainly there's uncertainties about those technologies, so the mix may vary, but ultimately we're still talking about a system that is essentially low or zero emitting. And we're also talking about the same kind of fundamental transformation in the developing world. And in both cases, we're talking about potentially larger systems, but systems that have very little in terms of greenhouse gas emissions associated with them. The third issue that we've been looking at is really this issue of how countries might potentially work together. And so this is the broader question of looking at policy design and how might countries go forward with realizing their pledges and do it in a more cost-effective manner. And in that work, we're finding that there are opportunities for bi- and trilateral partnerships, the kinds of opportunities that essentially make the citizens in both society better off because there are cost savings associated with those partnerships. And so there's an important role for organizations like EPRI that can help think about technological strategies, that can help think about potential policy designs that would be accommodating for both the development needs as well as the emissions constraints, and thinking about the possibility for interactions across regions. And so there's some important questions there regarding financing, important questions regarding technological innovation, development, and deployment, and then of course there's overall societal questions about doing it in a way that's beneficial on welfare terms to society.